I'm going to start off by introducing P6 to you as one of the professional papers. It's also an optional paper. So in this introduction, I want to talk to you about what P6 is all about, first of all. I want to talk about what the syllabus includes and talk about the format of the exam and how to pass it. The second stage is going to be to talk about why you should choose P6 as one of your options and discuss the advantages and the disadvantages. Once we've got past that stage, we will then move on to talk about analysing the syllabus to look at the topics and how frequently they're tested, and talking about the do's and don'ts in order to pass this exam. And then finally we'll look at one of the topic areas from our chosen syllabus. So I want to start off by introducing advanced taxation first of all, and to talk about what it's all about. And the first thing I would like to say about P6 is that, when you're doing ACCA, you start off with no knowledge of taxation, and you then do F6, which is the sort of like the skills and the knowledge based paper. And that's the sort of foundation of knowledge. And then when you do the P6, you're building on that foundation and taking it to a higher level. So let's talk about what it's all about, and just to sort of look at the difference between P6 and F6. So what you're going to have to do in this paper is you have to apply knowledge, and you have to be able to advise people and businesses, that's companies as well as individuals, about taxation and help them to make financial decisions. The examiner wants you to be able to evaluate tax and also to be able to explain taxation to individuals in simple layman's terms. He wants you to be able to advise not only individual personal clients but also corporate clients as well, advising them and also evaluating their taxation for them. So advising. Also, you have to be able to help your client to minimise their tax or defer their tax in using standard planning techniques. You must be able to advise your client about how to deal with HMRC and be professional and give advice in an appropriate manner. Like F6, there is still a lot of rote learning to be done. You've got to learn a lot of things, pro formas and rules, and you've got to have a lot of knowledge in order to be able to do all this advising and evaluating. So really, the knowledge that you got at F6, you're now going to build on that and take it to a much higher level. Talking about the syllabus, the syllabus is made up of a lot of things that were covered at F6, taxation of individuals, income tax, capital gains, and now we're bringing in tax on death and trusts and companies, and then we've got stamp duty and stamp duty land tax, and then the familiar one of the value added tax. So we've also got interaction of taxes and reduction or mitigation of tax, and then finally we've got the topic of ethics and acting in an ethical way. So making sure that you follow the professional code of ethics. Another area that you have to be familiar with when you're doing P6, being ethical, honest, and not assisting your client in doing some dishonest tax evasion. So again, looking at the difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion as well. So the syllabus doesn't look too bad. A lot of it looks familiar from your previous studies. The next thing I want to talk to you about is the format of the exam. The P6 exam is examined as a 3-hour exam, and in addition to the 3 hours, you've got 15 minutes of reading time. Unlike the F6 examiner, the P6 examiner doesn't give much guidance as to what topic areas are going to be examined in each of the questions that he's going to set. The only topic that is for certain going to be in the paper is the topic of ethics, and the examiner has said that that will always be examined for a minimum of 5 marks. Possibly one other useful bit of information that we've got is that the areas of the syllabus which are new to P6, meaning they're not tested at F6, are likely to feature more frequently in the P6 exam. The exam is divided into 2 sections, Section A, and that has 2 compulsory questions in it, and the total marks for Section A will be between 50 and 70 marks. These questions, going by past experience, are going to be large questions, and they are unstructured in their style. Open-ended, the examiner describes them as. One question might be for, let's say, 34 or 35 marks, and the other one might be for, say, 30 marks. So usually big questions, usually like a case study of some description. 2 questions compulsory in Section A. The Section A questions concentrate on application, evaluation and explanation skills. So you've got to apply your knowledge, you've got to do some evaluations, and you've also got to be able to explain as well. These questions very often will require you to prepare an answer in a standard format, such as a letter or a report or a memorandum, and the examiner has said he will always award at least 2 marks for presenting in the right format in a professional manner. The Section B questions, you have to do 2 out of a total of 3 questions in Section B, and the examiner has said that these questions will be much shorter and they will also be much more structured. So 2 Section A questions and 2 Section B questions, meaning that at the end of the paper you should have done 4 questions in total. The next thing I want to talk to you about is how to pass the P6 exam. I mean, as you sort of start off on your journey to studying P6 as one of your optional papers, what sort of advice can I give you to making sure that you are successful? Well, first thing I need to say to you is that you need to give yourself plenty of time to learn this subject, and it's essential that you have good basic knowledge. When I say good basic knowledge, that's the F6 knowledge that you hopefully have, or at least had at some time, and you've got to get that back. The examiner says that you have to have good knowledge to pass this exam. You've also got to have good exam technique, so you've got to practice lots of questions in order to develop that technique. And once you've got your knowledge and your technique, and you practice that knowledge and technique in past exam questions by doing as many past exam questions as you possibly can, then that is the secret of success. So getting the knowledge, getting the exam technique and bringing them together by practicing as many questions as you can. When you go into the paper, you're going to have 3 hours and 15 minutes, so you've got to try and make sure that those 15 minutes of reading time that you get at the beginning of the paper, you don't waste those 15 minutes and you make good use of them. You've got to be very, very strict with yourself, and one of the keys to success is to keep to your time, because each of the questions requires you to stick to your time, and if you run over on the time, then that is going to be a serious disadvantage and could be your ultimate downfall. You need to read the requirements first, and I advise students to read the requirements at a minimum of 3 times. First of all, at the start of the paper, when you're just forming in your mind what, things you should be looking for when you read the question. And then when you start answering the question, just read your requirements again, just to make sure that you're going in the right direction. And then finally, at the end, when you finish doing your answer, just do one more check on the requirements to make sure that you've covered everything and you haven't missed any sort of easy parts out. Presentation is, absolutely critical in this exam. And remember I said in section A, he's going to very often require you to present your answer in a standard format, like a letter or report or a memorandum, and you've got to make sure that you get those 2 or 3 easy marks for the presenting your answer in this professional manner using the format that he's requested. You've got to have confidence and you've got to believe that when you go into the paper that you are going to pass. Now, to get that confidence, I believe that the only way to get the confidence is to use your knowledge and your exam technique, and you must practice as many past exam questions as you possibly can. And in order to get comfortable and build your knowledge, and all these things are going to mean that when you go into that exam, you're going to know and believe that you're going to pass. You must believe that. Always start with the question you can do well first, and then move on to your next best question and so on. Make sure you get all the easy marks and make sure you state the obvious. I usually advise students to start with a section B question first, a small one, which is going to be more structured and easier, and make sure you do start with a section B question, but stick to your time and don't be tempted to go over the allotted time. If you don't know something, then leave it out. Don't waste time on parts of the answer which take up lots of time but are giving you very little marks. If it's 2 marks, then don't spend half an hour on it. Make sure you start each new question on a new piece of paper, and make sure you show the examiner which part of the answer you are at that time attempting. So make it nice and clear to the examiner exactly what you're doing.